Special thank you to Seed and Stone Cidery and Lucky Buzz Meadery for sponsoring the show today. They help to make this show possible and supply us with the occasional beverage when we're out there. They've got 10 taps full of meads and ciders made right there in-house. They've also got all sorts of awesome events going on, including an open mic almost every single Thursday where you can come out and show your musical talent. So all you songwriters out there, stop out and grab a cider or a mead and tell them that the Songwriters Couch and the Patrick Joanne Band sent you. Again, Seed and Stone Cidery right here in Rochester, New York. Go out and visit them and let them know we sent you. Thanks, guys. All right, welcome to episode number 34 of the Songwriters Couch. I've got a very special episode. A good friend of mine who is joining the podcast today. But as usual, before we get started here, I'd like to thank our sponsors, for whom without we could not have a show. And we've gained a few patrons too. I'd love it if we had a few more of those, so we weren't slaves to our corporate masters, as it were. Although I do love our sponsors; they're good friends of ours too. So, but we do have a patron page. All those links will be down in the bottom if you want to donate something on a monthly basis. We have patrons as low as $1 a month that are giving some money, and then we do have merch, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not wearing it today, but I always forget to promote my own band on here, but patrickjoanne.com, we just got some new merch for our band too. And thank you to everyone that watches every week. If you have not yet, I'll put the little graphic down there, but comment, like, subscribe. It really helps with the algorithms and getting us around these robots that are trying to take over the world that we have created ourselves. And on today, without further ado, we have the one, the only, Mr. Jerome Brooks Jr. Welcome to the show, man.
Hello, how are you?
Good. So how are you doing today? You're getting the heat wave down there or what?
Yes, it's a little heat wave. So I went out early today and got some errands done. And then I met up with Shoji to work on music. So we've been studio recording and practicing today.
Beautiful. And we'll talk about Shoji as well in a second and hopefully have him on a show real soon as well. But before we do that, why don't you tell the audience here, anyone watching, listening, who you are, what you do, and kind of where they can find your stuff in a shameless self-promotion tirade? Would it be called a tirade? No. What is that called when in a play where they just have one person saying a dialogue, not a solo,
Like a monologue?
Monologue. There you go. A self-promotion monologue. Jerome.
And if it was classical theater, it would be like a soliloquy, maybe.
That's right. Soliloquy. That's what I was thinking. Soliloquy is what I was thinking.
Yes.
Why don't you tell the people at home
work also
who you are?
I am a musician. I'm a songwriter. I'm an actor. I went to school for musical theater, so I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in musical theater and classical piano minor. So I picked musical theater as a major because musicals don't necessarily have to fit into a certain genre. Because I grew up playing classical music, I didn't want to be a classical composer. I also played in church, but I didn't want to be a gospel composer. I love theater and musicals, but I didn't want to say, hey, I only play musicals, because growing up, when you play in church and then you play your classical piano recitals, it's not a musical. But I thought musicals may be the closest thing that would encompass everything that I am. Musicals are different songs in a show. Musicals don't all sound the same. The songs in a musical aren't the same. So I thought, oh, musicals, it could be R&B, it could be jazzy, it could be gospel, it could be pop, it could be country. And I said, okay, musical theater major, then I don't have to just say, hey, I only do one type of music. And in real life, a musician plays lots of different types of music. That's why we call music the universal language. Music took me to Japan, Germany, Turkey, Austria, Italy, and I don't speak all of those languages, but because I play music and other people play music, we all can unite and perform together and they can enjoy the music I made. So I started writing musicals because every song I write is not necessarily for me to sing. And sometimes I hear songs for a female singer or a male singer or groups or a duet or a comedy or something jazzy. And so my goal was to move to New York to do Broadway at night, be on stage, but also produce in the daytime music for celebrities and new artists. And then I wanted to I wanted to do commercials and TV shows and movies and write. So it's happening. It's not on the level that I thought it was going to be at when I came here 21 years ago, but I have been able to create musicals. I have been able to produce for different artists. And I like the life. Of course, I play at theaters. Some have country music, some have jazz music, some have pop music. I teach kids at schools. Some
So
schools are Spanish and some schools speak
I,
French.
I want to get way deeper into kind of how you got into all this and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Before we go that route, why don't you tell everyone kind of where they can find your stuff, the website, because there are people that are just listening on audio too, so that they can find your music.
This is amazing. Okay, so if you go to Apple Music, and you can go to iTunes or Apple and just type Jerome Brooks Jr., you will get to see and listen to lots of music that I've created. That's one platform. Spotify. There are two Spotify pages for me. One is under Jerome and one is under Jerome Brooks Jr. The good thing is YouTube, they created a platform where my YouTube page has my projects. So YouTube, Azeyoul, Azeyoul.
And
Basically, when I was a kid, I said that if I had a child, I wanted their name to be different from everybody else's. And so that's what I was going to name my child because it looked pretty when you write it in cursive. And then there weren't many people that had that name. So that is my YouTube, but there you'll see my releases under Jerome Brooks Jr. And a musical that I've been working on since 2008 is called Committed, the musical. And if you Google that on YouTube, you will see the releases under Jerome. So you can find me, Jerome Brooks Music Fans, Facebook, Jerome Brooks Jr. at Twitter, Jerome Brooks Jr. Actor on Instagram. And if you go to IMDb, you can see my acting reel, and you'll also get to see links to pages where you can find me.
Beautiful. Well, we'll add all the links. So if you could just send me one more time, I know you sent it to me for a previous project that we will also talk about. But if you could send me those links, we'll put it in the description of the video too, so that everyone can find them, so they don't have to be writing it down if they're driving or what have you. As well, you can find it on the YouTube channel. And before we get real deep into it, I like to do this little game where we have our guests do two truths and a lie. And I'll play the little theme music. There'll be a cut here magically through the magic of editing in this digital age. There'll be a little theme song that happens right here. And then we'll come back and and we'll get right into the three or two.
That was my favorite song. That was my favorite.
Two truths and a lie. So why don't you give me three things,
Yes.
all of which could potentially be facts about you, but one of which is a falsehood about you. And let's see if I can. Now, I will tell you this, Jerome. I'm terrible at this game, unfortunately.
And watch you probably guess it. You're gonna get it right.
My success rate is not very good, so we'll see. Hopefully,
okay. So two truths and one lie. Okay, the first one is there's this famous composer named Duncan Sheik, and he won the Tony Award for Spring Awakening. He does pop music. But I collaborated with him for an off-Broadway show, and we wrote music together. Another one is I got to make some demo music for Beyonce. And the next one is I got to do some studio music and with RuPaul.
Hmm.
So those are my three.
Love RuPaul. Beyonce, I like Beyonce too, but I like earlier Beyonce as she started getting a little further on in her career. I like the was it Survivor and
Do you like that? You don't
yeah,
like country music?
I'm not a big country music person to begin with. Um,
No.
but yeah, some of her later stuff I just haven't. I don't know. It's the same with a lot of bands though. I like their early stuff and I kind of fall out of love with the with what they're doing in the later years or whatever. Or maybe I change and I divert. But all right, so let's see what I can. Let's
You
see.
know, I did play something for Shoji today. I was showing him how their first single was a song called No, No, No,
Hmm.
Destiny's Child. And then it didn't chart.
Hmm.
So what the record company did is they contacted Wyclef, and Wyclef did a remix, and he basically double timed the song, and it became a number one hit. But everything that was in the ballad, the slow R&B version, they double timed it, and like so she would speak
Oh,
slow, and all of a sudden everything was like double time. The music, the lyrics, the melody,
yeah,
the
yeah,
dance. And so it's amazing how like sometimes it's just one little thing
yeah. It's
and you
it's
do or add to a song.
there's definitely a little bit of kind of luck and the right song at the right time.
Yes.
Timing's
And
right for what it is. But let's get into let me try and guess here before we get into all that because we'll get deep in. I know you and I are going to get
oh
deep into this
no, I
stuff.
like music. Because I was going to say,
Oh,
they picked Wyclef because the Fool just had that big hit, Killing Me Softly. And they were like, if he did that.
I do a cover of that song every once in a while. All right, so I think because you were so detailed on the first fact you said or first statement you said, sometimes people get real detailed when they're making up something. So I'm gonna go with the first one. I forgot the individual's name that you said.
Oh, Duncan Sheik.
Duncan Sheik. So is that Jerome, the lie? And there'll be a drum roll right here.
And you think that's the lie?
I think that's the lie, Jerome. Tell me, am I correct?
Oh, it's the truth.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, which one out of the three then is the lie?
Uh, the lie is I didn't work with Beyonce yet.
I like that. Not yet, right?
Yes, I would love to one day.
Well, listen, I take back everything I said about her later music in hopes that you get to work with her.
Yes, because I saw this video with Dolly Parton, and her big dream was, they were like, if there's anybody else that could record one of your songs, because she was like, Whitney made her like the most money ever in her life after she re-recorded I Will Always Love You. And they were like, is there anybody else? And she was like, I want Beyonce to do Jolene. And that was like years ago. Flash forward, Beyonce was like, okay, Dolly, you wanted me to do Jolene, but I have to change some of the words because, Dolly was talking about her appearance and, the girl was, talking about blondes and brunettes. And
Yeah.
Beyonce was like, I want to adapt it. And Dolly was like, I would love for you to make it work. And now all of a sudden, it's like, it's another big hit for Dolly. So sometimes it's just an artist.
Yeah. Yeah. And I found that too. I mean, there's a little bit of um, you know, purposeful marketing and timing from the point of view because even a giant record company, I mean, you said Beyonce, right? They released the song, whatever the song was at first, it didn't take off, and then Wyclef remixed it. So there's a lot of artists out there that sometimes get kind of frustrated with, oh, the song, I'm so in love with this song and it's not moving in the way I thought it would move. But I found over the years, sometimes even songs take 10 years to become a hit.
Mhm.
They're kind of
Like Tracy Chapman.
right.
Who
Yeah.
would have ever thought, she would be like the first Black woman to win like the best song in the Country Music Awards? But it was because this, little guy that grew up and his dad had a truck would play this song, and it was a song that, she was singing. Years later, he re-records the song and it's number one. And she's like, oh my God, guy re-recorded my song, and now all of a sudden she got invited to perform at the CMAs.
And you know what? It's fun. What's funny about that song too, and I don't know if it's just kind of in New York or whatever, but I do a lot of open mics. I like to see new artists get up on stage, like especially younger people where they get up. It's like their first time on stage. I don't know why I love watching that, but I love people like that were plotting their song and how they're going to do it on stage and all that, and they've just been doing it in their bedroom at home or whatever in their apartment, and then finally their first performance is on a stage, especially at an open mic, and they're nervous and kind of vulnerable, and I just love seeing that. But the reason I bring that up is because that particular song, Fast Car, like everyone does that song at open mics, right? And I don't know if it's just the chords of it are simple, or it's easier to it's easy to play it and sing it or something. But that song was everywhere for the last 10 years. Every time I'd go to an open mic, someone was playing it. So no, I mean,
And like you say, we don't know. Maybe if other people wanted to record it, and maybe she didn't get permission, or maybe nobody ever wanted to record it. But I know back in the day of with Prince, he didn't let people record a lot of his songs. And I think one of the first big ones was that was newer, was when Alicia Keys did "How Come You Don't Call Me" on her debut album.
hmm.
And then they're like, oh my God, because
What
a
was his
lot of
reasoning
say it
for that?
again.
Do you know what his reasoning behind that was? I mean,
No, I don't know. For some reason, because everybody was sampling DeBarge songs, like Tupac, I Ain't Mad at You was a big one, and they used A Dream by DeBarge, like oh my God, Biggie Smalls used like a lot of Isley Brothers. So, when sampling was popular with all the songs,
it
they
was
were like, "Wow, Prince has the biggest, vocabulary of just hits and library of material repertoire," but he
yeah,
wouldn't let people do it. And I think I don't know if he had to vet people or what,
yeah.
but for some reason, Alicia was one that got to do "How Come You Don't Call Me."
Hmm.
And it was like, could you imagine there could have been so many hits with people redoing a lot of his songs, but
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he made enough money in his lifetime too, but imagine the money he would have made off of some of that too. I watched some
yeah,
documentary or something on YouTube about him recently, and he would do things in the studio, like purposely do like put parts in the songs that couldn't be played live in a normal band. So like for instance, some of the tracks have like three bass lines in them.
yes,
And so it's not humanly possible to play the bass line in a song because it's all over the neck, And
never gonna get it.
yeah, so he was doing that though purposefully sometimes to prevent people from being able to cover it and do it in a live scenario. What's funny is though I watched a documentary. I think it was on Eddie Van Halen, and the way he used to record his solos, his guitar solos. Um, they'd record the song, then he'd go in to do the solo, and he record like I don't know 6 or 7 different takes. Then after in post, he would have them cut it up, and so every solo was different. He was just freestyling or whatever, or improving, and then he'd have to because he would cut it up to play it live, right, all the way through. Sometimes would be he'd be up here and down there on the neck or whatever. So he'd have to relearn how to play, and sometimes they would be almost impossible for him to even play it because of the way it was it was cut up, and he liked the part in its particular way. So but during the documentary, they just talked to him. He's like, I became a better guitar player even than I was, because I was having to learn stuff that was, I thought, and most people would think, that's impossible to play live. But it's interesting that
You're right, because if there's anybody that has to be able to do it live, it has to be that artist.
yeah.
That was my thing. I think me and Shoji kind of ran into that at one time. We when you record everything and it sounds so good, and maybe you don't do it all in one take. And, and when you have to sing it live, but like, oh my God, we have to do some sessions on like breathing exercises. And that's where, I like working with singers, because like you said, when singers have performances, I used to play open mics and sometimes I would do them, but I like working with artists who do performances of original songs.
Mm.
and then I approach it like a vocal coach from a theater background. Like, hey, if you're gonna sing this note and you got to go to this next note, you need to take a breath. And then they want to like the placement of the note, and where you're gonna go. And what was happening is sometimes I even demo songs, because I write musical, so I demo it, and I'm not necessarily performing it live, but I demo how I want it to sound. But then if somebody has to perform it live, it's like, oh, did you do that? And I'm like, oh my God, you have to take a breath here, and then maybe cut off this word there, and then put this one in a different part of your voice. So exactly what you were explaining about guitar, it's kind of like with voice also, especially if you don't record it in one take.
Yeah.
But sometimes what me and Shoji's done is we practice songs over and over and over and over, and then we recorded it, and then we can do it in one take. But sometimes the creativity is there, and you just like, hey, let's see what we have for this verse. Let's see what we have for that verse. Let's see what we have for this chorus. But then when you put it all together, you're like, oh, it sounds good. But then we have to perform it. I
So
have to practice it on the piano too. Oh my God, how do I?
and we keep referencing Shoji. Can he stick his head into the frame there real quick?
Yes,
Just
come on over, Shoji. You got to come
just
see.
just just briefly. So we keep referencing him because we did a show recently in New York City down at Pianos with yourself, Shoji. You had a number of singers with you, my band, and then hey, Shoji, there
There he is.
Nasher Modi was there as well. So we're gonna have Shoji on the show soon too. He's popping his head in there, but we did a show recently in New York, and so I wanted to just introduce him so that people know who we're talking about. Who why don't we talk a little bit about that for a moment? So what was your guys' experience with that show? Did you feel that yeah, I guess what were your feelings about it? So we kind of did a showcase of everyone's new material and their their upcoming releases and so forth. And I think at this point everyone's songs are out, so we could talk about it. We had released a song called "The Music Saved Me," along with like a video, a making of, and all that stuff. And so we performed that song that night, and then you guys did some of your material too. What's the name of that single, the song, the music?
There's something is the name of the song.
Be something, right? Yep.
There is something. Yes. And that's everything was produced, written by Jerome Brooks Jr. And I asked him something we can do together, and I brought a couple of my songs, but this time he had his song. When did you write this song? When you're in high school?
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh wow.
It's too good to it's not fair. It's cool when he can write and produce this music like that. It's not fair. So yeah, but I really like that song from his selections. So we decided to record it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, and I really loved your guys' performance, especially with the harmonies are just were amazing throughout the whole thing. I've been getting really into in the past. I haven't been that into the harmonies, but my piano player has been slowly forcing me to do more and more harmonies in what we're doing. And as a matter of fact, on this song that I released, I think there's about 100 vocal tracks on it, all blended kind of together in this like this way that's really beautifully like haunting. So go download that. Anyone that's where are you? There you go. Everyone go download our song and these guys' new song. And Shoji, we will have on the show. We're trying to book and arrange schedules. So we will have you on the show, I promise, at some time soon.
Thank you so much.
So and we'll talk to you soon. So let's get into you, Jerome, a little bit deeper here. I want to get into one, I guess, how did you
So that song is called "There Is Something," and we released it, yes, the same day of your show, May 22nd, 2024. And basically it's not just a single, it is a 2-track single. What happened is me and Shoji practiced that song so much that he kind of like recorded his lead vocal in one take. And it's with me on the piano. It's kind of like a live sound, but I have produced bass and drums and congas. And then there was a studio version that I did, which because I wrote the song a long time ago and I had different bands performing in college and in high school. I had somebody demo it. I have different versions in my head. And so I did a version of the song, and I had showed you do some background vocals. And then on the version where he sung it, I did some background vocals to not only show his voice and what it would sound like if we did it live, but I wanted to show what a produced version of my music sounds like. And then I wanted people to hear what it sounds like when I perform live, to show that my songs don't always have to sound the same. Just because the person wrote a song does not mean that their song has to always sound the same. And I wanted to show that my song can live through different people when they sing it their way. And I learned a lot from Luther. What happened is I liked all of his songs, and I felt like 80% of his music was songs that were already done. And I had no idea. Karen Carpenter, and he did a lot of songs that, Dionne Warwick had done by Bert. And I was like, oh my God, I thought Luther, he did some of Stevie's songs back over Creeping. I didn't know Stevie recorded at first, oh my God. And the Don't You Remember You Told Me You Love Me? It was and I was like, oh my, and a house is not a home. And Dionne, and I said, so basically, he made these songs his. And I was like, if I can do that as a writer, get my songs to different people and they make it theirs, that is the beauty of creativity.
Yeah. Yeah. The older I get too, the more I appreciate just songwriting and maybe giving it to someone else to perform as well, just because I'm getting a little older, Jerome. Okay. And so the touring and the traveling from state to state gets a little bit more tiring than it used to get in the
Yes. How old are you now?
So I'm 43 as of this
Oh,
year.
almost the same. Okay.
Are you an 80s baby? What?
No, I'm 44.
So 79 then.
Yes, and I'll be 45 this year. I'm getting old.
I'll say this, Jerome. You look maybe 35, maybe.
Oh, good. And
If,
and I have 2 hair implants and it grows. Yeah, and
so let me ask you this. So first of all, what's the song about?
there is something.
Yeah.
Oh, there is something. I had this high school girl who came from New Jersey to South Carolina, and people kind of picked at her because her clothes were like super fashionable. I think she sucked her thumb. She didn't know a lot of people. And I was the guy that would kind of talk to her, but people would pick at her. She was always by herself. And they made it hard for her. She had an accent. She was from up north, and everybody else from down south is from down south. But it was something that intrigued me about her beauty. She was different. She didn't dress like everybody else. She didn't talk like everybody else. And I was like, I'm infatuated with this girl. There's something about her. And she would be by herself, but I would be with my friends, and they would talk about her. And I didn't really stick up for her like I should have. When you see somebody getting picked at or you see somebody being bullied, you can either say, hey, you know what? It's not right. Maybe I don't know her, but what you're doing is not right. I didn't do that. And eventually it became too much for her. And she wanted to go back up north. And so she left. And I cried because everybody had hurt her feelings, and I felt like there was something that I never got to tell her. I really had a love for her, and it was too late now. She's gone, and and we were pen pals, and she ended up having a boyfriend, and then I found out another reason she left was because she got pregnant. And but it went, and I was like, oh my God, somebody, like she loved somebody else, and I missed my chance to, and so it was like the things that you never got to say to somebody, and now it's a little bit too late.
All right, so I'm going to skip all the music stuff for a minute, and I want to get into that thought there. So, so do you feel, well, I guess at this point, have you reached out to her recently?
Yeah, so when the song was gonna come out, I posted, hey, look out, there's this song, and I tag her. I wrote it for you. And she was like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. And I was like, yes. And everybody, I'm tagging all the people that were in my band in college, in my band in high school. I was like, this is going to come out and you all are going to love it. And I have this other singer that's doing like a version of it that kind of sounds like the live version. Then I have my version that kind of sounds like the version that so-and-so and so-and-so recorded on. And then all the music links on my Facebook got taken down.
Yeah,
and so like every other day,
I'll say this, Jerome.
before the song came out,
I think
yeah,
something was going. Every one of my friends was saying similar things. I had that whole event was taken down out of nowhere. I don't know what was up with that.
yeah, because when you sent me that message about, hey, something's going on, and then I think I sent you a screenshot, and I was like, not only, did all the links that I had showed you on get taken down, and it's never happened before. Then my profile picture got taken down, and then my cover photo got taken down.
Yeah, I don't think it had anything to do with what you were actually posting, because there were a bunch of friends that aren't musicians that I had too that just like posted a link to like their kids' something event or whatever.
God.
Getting stuff taken. I think there was some problem with the algorithm or something. Like someone changed something in the code, you know.
It
But so
was the worst. And because what happened is iTunes has a release. And so we picked it to be like 2 weeks before, you can pre-order it. And so basically everybody's like, I want to pre-order it. And I was like, yeah, look out for it. And then they were like, your post got taken away. Why are your pictures down? Why are you? And it was,
all right.
so the excitement that came from telling the girl, hey, look, follow everything I post because you're going to see the build up and then we're going to perform it live. It was like, there's a build up, but you can't see it.
I want to know, and I think everyone's waiting with bated breath to know, like, what was her reaction? Like, were you in conversation with her before the song came out? Like, or it was just kind of you reached out to her because the song was coming out? And then what was her reaction to it? Was she like, oh my God, thank you? Or was it
because with Shoji, when we create music, anybody can sing a song, but when you perform it live, people can read, like as a theater performer, when it's fake, it's fake. When you see somebody acting on stage, you're like, oh my God, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
You want to believe somebody. So you want them to find truth to what they're singing. And so I had to tell him what my song was about and what it meant to me. And then, I was telling him, like, is there somebody in your life? Is there something that makes the song make sense to you? So with me telling him about this song, it was like, oh my God, like maybe I should tell this girl, because I wrote it about her, but I never told her about the song because she was already gone. And the fact that I performed it with a band and I'm like, it's about this girl that left and they knew her. And then when I got to college, and then I got to New York and I was like, oh my God, I never released the song. And so when, me and Shoji, we wrote songs together, but I was like, I have other songs in case you just ever want to record a song I wrote. And he picked that song. I played him a lot of songs I wrote and he picked that song. He was just like the words, the lyrics. So it made me think, why did I write this song? It's like, oh my God, it's about this girl. And I'm like, I'm friends with her, but she doesn't know about this song. And so she did hear it and she did send me a message. And I mean, of course she's married and she has kids, but it just, and that's what music does. It takes you to a place where you were. I'm sure when you write a song, you can probably think of where you were when you wrote that song and how you felt. Maybe you were crying, maybe you were happy. Yeah. And I think it brought back the emotion. So when I sang it in my recording, it was just like I felt what it was about. And so it was nice to reach out to her and to all the people in the band that sung the song and, singers, because it has a lot of harmonies. And so it felt good to
when you write, is that typically how it comes about? Like, is it about something that's happening in your life typically, or do you feel like you like, because I'm very, again, this is called the songwriter's couch, right? And so
yes,
we definitely get into like why do you write, or how do you write? Like what, like when I, for example, when I write, sometimes it's about a personal experience that I've had. Sometimes I also get into a mindset of thinking about a situation. And I feel like good songwriters have this empathy for people, and people throw the word empathy around, but I mean, you have this ability sometimes as a songwriter to take yourself out of your own head and put yourself into um, the mindset or the emotions of someone else, or yourself at the time, or different things, and then you need to then translate what you're feeling, which is very difficult to do, and put it into either words or music or whatever. How do you typically write? Is it you sit down to to write, or is it something that just kind of comes about? Um, if
For
that's
me, it is different. I think because I've played piano since I was 5, I started playing classical music, and when I would mess up, I would just play something and it would sound good, and I would like, oh my God, it sounds good, and then I would hit record on my tape player, and then I'd record another harmony, and then I would like,
you have the Tascam 4-track.
yeah, 2 tape players, and then you press record, and then you make another harmony, and then you
I used to do that
flip the
too.
tapes, and then you have to turn it all the way up because now you can't hear. You made the volume go away. And it was just kind of like, oh my God, like harmonies, and you would sing about different things. And so sometimes it's just playing and you're like, oh my God, it sounds good. Oh, this sounds good. Let me, and then sometimes as I got older, when I realized that I wanted to write musicals, I would have these scenes and dialogue, and then it was time for the song to come in, or the dialogue was so powerful that it could be a song. And I thought, like, how would this character feel? Is their song jazzy, or is their song pop, or is the conversation funny, or is this moment sad? And so, like you said, every song is not necessarily about my life. Sometimes I'm writing about these 2 friends. Maybe it's 2 girls who haven't seen each other in years. And then when they get back together, they realize they never really liked each other. So their song is not going to be slow. It's going to be fast.
So you're
And
writing
nice harmonies. I don't want them to sing in unison. So somebody's going to be a soprano, somebody's going to be an alto, and then I got to hear the bass line. And so sometimes melodies come to me, and sometimes, most of all my songs are piano based because that's my instrument.
yeah.
And
And I
so,
guess you're writing from the a lot of times from the perspective of characters in a play, right? So you're kind of
yes,
getting into their heads and what they would be feeling, what they would be thinking.
yes. But then when you play in a church, it's not about acting, so then you gotta, it's spiritual. You want people to feel. You can't always perform. So
Mm.
you gotta think of these chords, that sound good on somebody that has a gospel voice, or if you want to talk about, how good God has been, or how thankful you are, you need these chords that don't sound like a mystery, because then it's not going to be set. It's not going to feel calm,
Yeah. And plus
People
you
don't.
you want people to easily grasp, like in a congregation, to easily grasp on to the melodies,
Yes.
what have you. Yeah.
So when I played in jazz band in high school, my jazz band teacher, when I came time to play a solo, I was solo. He was like, take out those church chords. Nobody wants to hear church chords in jazz. And he's right. And it taught me, like, there's a place and a time for each type of music.
So
You know,
let me ask you this, because you said you are not native New Yorker, right? So
right.
where were you born, if I may ask?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. So
Have you ever been down south?
yes, so I believe Allie, my girlfriend, she lived in, I think it was South Carolina or North Carolina. I
Oh,
actually
okay,
don't
okay,
remember
okay.
now she's gonna kill me because I don't remember it's South or North.
Oh no.
But she was down south there. I tried to. I think I'm too much of a New York City. I was born and raised in Queens and Jackson Heights, and so outside of New York, things tend to be a little slower going,
Mhm.
and that
Yes.
that drives me crazy. I can't. I've realized that I have to kind of live in New York.
Ah,
When I'm older, I can move somewhere else, but it's just too slow and it drives me crazy. But I love traveling everywhere in the United States pretty much. But I tried to move out to San Diego at one point. I know that's not the South, right?
Because rock bands are big in California.
Yeah, like California, even out in California, too slow for me. They're happy, like just waiting in line peacefully, and I'm like looking at my watch, like, come on, guys, hurry up and order. And
Right, you're right.
I'm born and bred, New York. So what made you? So the dream
I
of
think I showed you one time I went to Japan, and we were like waiting at the crosswalk, and like no cars were coming, but nobody was crossing the street.
Yeah, that's how it is in LA too. In California, no one crosses when it's like, what do you do? Just go. There's no cars.
And they were like, "Oh, you get arrested." And I was like, "I don't want to be." And then, when I was in Japan, I'm like, I'm this black guy, and of course, like, there's not many of me. So if I was just across the street, everybody's going to know it, and I'm probably going to get arrested. So like, I have to just wait, and there's no car coming, and you just wait.
I'm always that guy too. I'm always the guy that like he's doing something wrong. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to stop him. I always get stopped when I'm going over the border. Or I'm just driving along. They always, I don't know, something about my face.
But I do want to say I do bring up Shoji a lot because in 2007 is when of course, like, I've made like burnt CDs, and I've been on these like outdoor drama tours, and then somebody have a studio there and we record, sonar or cake something. Yes, and different things. And I recorded some CDs in Germany and sold them, burnt CDs. But it wasn't until 2007, you meet people in New York, and I'm like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I write songs. I can write you a song," and I'll give them a burnt CD. And I was like, nobody's going to ever know what I did if it's not released. And I read The Secret. I was seeing this therapist, and they were like, sometimes instead of waiting for a record deal, you can like do it yourself. And I was like, I'm not Usher, I'm not famous. And I said, oh my God, I can do it. I write the songs. I've been to studios. I produce for people. I can create my own, album. And so I hired a drummer, bass player, trumpet player, trombone player, and I had them go into these studios and record all the music to my original songs. And then I ran out of money, and the engineer wouldn't give me
the music. The recordings. Oh my.
So I cried, and I was trying to get the money, and basically he would give me a discount, but if somebody else would be there and they would pay full price, he would move my session to the side. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to record the music by myself on Logic. I was working for this theater, and they had bought me a computer to do their music for their musical. And so in buying a Mac computer at that time, you could pay $99 a year for one-to-one, and you could go have personal one-on-one training for an hour in Logic. And so every time you got a new computer, you could get one-to-one for 2 years. And so I kept getting new computers from the theater, and I kept learning how to use Logic and produce. And those producers were producers for like Alicia Keys and all these people. And so, I find somebody to master my CD, and they would teach me how to edit. And 2007, I released a CD that I recorded all 10 songs by myself. I engineered. And this is what got me into the Recording Academy. At that time, you had to have like a full length, and it was released, and it was available all over the world. And then I went to Japan and did shows and performed music from it. And so I realized, oh my God, I can release music. I also named it Committed, because while I was trying to make that music, when everything started falling apart, my life started falling apart. The church that I was playing at that time, they fired me, and I had just finished touring Europe and Japan, and now I didn't have money to pay the bills, and I kind of gave up, and I didn't get on Broadway, and I was just like, if I just die, at least I won't disappoint my family. I can just go away, nobody will worry. And so I got locked up in Bellevue Psych Ward. And when I did get out, I said, I have to make sure this music gets out, so that if I do die, there'll be something that's going to live longer than me. And when that came out, yeah.
let me ask you, Jerome, because I almost feel like that's a lot of artists. They may not know it consciously, but I think subconsciously they're thinking about um not in a selfish way like living forever, but wanting to leave behind what they've experienced for other people. And one of the best ways to do that is through like songwriting or art, and being able to express yourself in this way that, at least at this moment, technically can live on forever. Your music can
Yes.
live on way beyond you. I mean, there are obviously dead musicians now, and we're still
Like you say, fast car. Like
things
our
like that.
music lives forever.
Do you think that comes from so I know you
And
said
it's not selfish because when she wrote it, I don't think she thought, in,
it,
20 years later,
well, I think
somebody
that
would record it. No.
I think the reason that like the music, like people can relate to it, or part of it is like I want to have people experience the world through my way of seeing it, because I a lot of people are kind of hopeless about the world, or they see it in this way that's not, um like they feel like it's a drudgery sometimes, life, and I don't see life that way. I Even the hardships, the horrible moments of life, I
Mhm.
feel like I'm not a religious person, but I feel blessed and privileged to be able to experience every facet of life. And I feel that it's all so beautiful. And I would love to share what I find beautiful about even the misery of the world and the
Yes.
bad times in my life, um, by
Through your art.
yeah, by putting it into art and having other people kind of see the way I'm perceiving it.
That's
Uh,
what visual artists do. They paint. They saw something and they want other people to come and look at what they created.
did your family were your family musical?
No, my mom and dad, they don't play any instruments, they don't sing.
Oh wow.
But my dad loved Prince. He took me to see Purple Rain when I was a kid to cover my eyes when, like, the lady took her top off. But my dad, all his friends were like piano teachers. And so I had first piano teacher was an older lady that he knew. Her name was Narcissa Dargan, and she had like an antenna. And so, like, when I would play the wrong notes, she would like pop my hand with the antenna. I mean, oh my God. And she taught me, and then she died. And then I had a white piano teacher. Her name was Mary Jim Sutherland. And her husband, he played gospel by ear, like bluegrass gospel.
Hmm.
And so she taught me all the way up until I went to college. But my dad had another friend who played in church, and he taught me organ lessons. And then there was a lady at the church that my parents went at, and she taught me how to play gospel hymns and Richard Smallwood songs. And then he would actually come and do workshops, and Donnie Harper, and I would work with them. But because I played classical music in high school, I was a musician at an all-white church, and my parents went to like a black church.
Yeah, not a lot
You
of
know,
music, like soulful music.
it was totally different, and so I was at odds. It was like I couldn't play the songs that were popular at the church that my parents went, because I was playing at this church that had white people at it. And then flash forward, when I went to college in Virginia, I played at a Southern Baptist church, and I realized Southern Baptist is different from Baptist down south. I mean, it has roots in racism, because I was like, what is the difference from Southern Baptist? I'm Southern Baptist, I'm from the South, but no, it's like different. And evangelical is different from just church in general. Yeah. Basically, I was the only Black person at this church in Virginia. And the music was different than the music I played at the white church in South Carolina, which was also different from the music I played in jazz band. But the church blessed me. I mean, they wanted a musician that was Black so that I could add soul to the songs.
Right, because it's probably lacking. I'm imagining the.
Yeah, and when I could do that. And then I was a musician for the gospel choir at the college, which was a lot of Black opera singers. But because I had the training, it sounded legit. So we didn't just sing like any kind of gospel songs. Like we sung the gospel songs with like hard harmonies and like big vocal parts.
So I'm going to talk to you after this, but I think I've got a project that if you're interested, we should maybe work together, because I dig the way you put vocal harmonies and things together. So we'll talk after, because I've got some things going on in the back of my head now that are like.
And then what happened is a lot of musicals started coming to life, and I started.
Why musicals of all the?
Well, I realized like I wasn't going to be famous like Usher, because I didn't have his dance moves, even though I had dance training. What I did do is I said, whenever I release this first project, I want to make sure it looks like it could be in the music store with everybody else's. So I had like a photo shoot. It was a Japanese guy named Mitsuru Kosaka, and he did my photograph. I even got it I did consignment where it was at Disco Rama and like Union Square, West 8th Street. I got it at Black Star Music in Harlem. Like I got the light box display, and so it was in stores physically, it was online. I was shipping, at that time you had to ship it to CD Baby so that they could deliver it to Japan if some people ordered it from over there. And so I wanted to make sure it had like lyrics in it. I made sheet music for all the songs. I was just like one day, and then eventually I'm like, oh, this is exhausting. Like, and then you got to play live, and then you got to find people to sing and play with you live. And you don't want to sing to a track. It got kind of old. And so I'll never forget, I went to this famous open mic at the Village Underground, and I had my new CD. I just came from Japan, and people were buying my music. And so I went to the open mic, and I was like, this is the sheet music for my original song, and I'm going to sing this song, and it's tempo 65. And I was like, 1, 2, 3. And the drummer stood up and crossed his arms. And like everybody started booing. And I was so embarrassed. And I was running off the stage, and the host, Ron Grant, he was like, one of the people at Motown, he came and got me. He was like, no, get on the stage. Everybody stop what you're doing. This is not nice. His brother just came from Japan. He's a creator. We are doing cover tunes and, Ashford and Simpson songs and Stevie songs, but this guy's alive and he's trying to create original music. Like, let's respect him. And he was like, start over, do it again, and we're going to listen to you. And I was like, no, I'm just going to do a Stevie Wonder cover. Don't you worry about a thing. And, I did that. And I like ran home and cried. And I was like, I'm never going to do an open mic again. And I realized it's not my thing. I'm not a cover tune guy. I like original songs. I came to New York. I could be in another state doing cover tunes. That's how you make a living as a musician. But in New York, you come to create.
Yeah. And well, that's what's interesting too. When I was referencing open mics, and I said I like seeing young performers, it's usually original music. I mean, they're doing original music at open mics, at least around here and stuff.
In New York.
Yeah, I know. Well, here,
and you have open mic professionals. They can, if you have somebody that sounds like Luther, or sounds like Beyonce, or sounds like a Mary J, or sounds like so and so. The band knows all the songs. They go every week. They get all their friends to come. They turn it out. They have dance moves. They have background singers that know all the harmonies, and they give you a show. So like, if I come with an original song, it ain't gonna sound half as good. And then you're gonna have, Valerie Simpson there in the audience at the Sugar Bar, because they're famous for their Thursday, open mics, and all the celebrities are there, all the writers of all the songs that are being sung, and the people that recorded these old songs. So, they wouldn't have gotten any place if they were doing cover tunes. They wrote these songs for people.
So that leads me to my next question here that I've been kind of sitting on. So I question myself on this often too. What What gives you the audacity, Jerome?
Mhm.
I'm saying that in a funny way. What gives you the audacity to think that writing music and performing music and releasing recorded music it is what you're allowed to do with your life, right? What could be your
Oh,
profession? The reason I ask that is because most people,
yeah.
when they're younger, oh, I want to be an actor,
Yes.
or I want to be a musician or whatever. And then they, 18, 19, in their mid 20s, I'm just going to get a office job. I'm going to do, just get a job and do that because that's music is a pipe dream, being an
It's
actor.
like first you aim high and then you aim lower and lower and lower and lower.
And people
That's
give
what
up,
happened.
or
You
they
know,
say, oh yeah, it's a silly kid dream, or whatever. And then there are people that keep going and pursue it, like you, like a number of people that I've
mhm.
had on this podcast. And I wonder, like, what gives you the
It
the
changes
confidence?
every day. Some days I'm like, you know what am I doing here? Like,
Yeah.
you know, I met RuPaul and so in New York, and he was like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I'm a songwriter." He's like, "Have you written any songs?" I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, "You have?" I was like, "I have a burnt CD. I go to the studio and I'm recording this album, and I have this band." He was like, "I want to go with you." And so he was like, "I'll pick you up at your apartment." He rode a bike and he had an extra bike, and we rode to the studio. And I was showing him where I was. He was like, "I want you to record music for me," and that's how it started. And I started making tracks. He was like, "But if you record the music, I'm going to get the credit. Like, I'm going to own it. I'll pay for the studio time. I'll pay you, but like it's all mine." And so basically, I'm like, one day I want to finish my CD, but I'm running out of money. He said, "If you finish your CD, I'll write a review." When it came out, he was the first person to write a review for me on CD Baby.
Wow.
And I would go to his apartment and he would tell me like different songwriters whose music lasts, like Bert and all the greats. And he was like, "You want to make songs with nice melodies. You want to make songs with things that say something." And I was like, "Well, what do you want to do?" At that time, I think he was like directing some porn videos or something for Michael Lucas. And he was just like, "I want to have a show one day that's like a mix of Project Runway and America's Next Top Model." And so I was like, "I have a free ticket to this Broadway show called Hot Feet, and I took him and we took pictures. And so that was around 2005, 2006, before my CD came out and before I went to the psych ward. And then after I came out and I released the music, he wrote a review. Flash forward, he is the #1 Emmy-winning host for the TV show RuPaul's Drag Race. And that was the show that he said he wanted to be a mix between Project Runway and America's Next Top Model. It took years. And so it made me think like, okay, if I'm making these CDs and I'm not this famous singer, maybe I'll produce for other people. So I started producing songs for other artists, and MySpace was big, and it was this Italian artist. He would send me tracks, and I would make music, and we would get people to sing, and he would rap. Then it was this off-Broadway musical. They wanted to make a soundtrack, and I submitted all that stuff to the Recording Academy. And then when I started going to, they had New York viewings at the at Jay-Z's 4040 Club. And then I said, one day I want to go to New York. And I slept on the couch of this Filipino girl and her partner, this black guy. And I said, "Oh my God, like I love going to the Grammy Awards." And I was by myself, but just the fact that you could sit at the premiere ceremony any place you wanted, and celebrities are surrounded, you know, the you and and I went to the after party, and Paul Schaefer was behind me, and he was like, "What do you do?" And I said, "I write musicals." He was like, "Is there anything you have coming up?" And I was like, "No, but I said, since I'm at the Recording Academy, maybe I can do a concept album, and then it'll be made into a musical." And he said, "Jesus Christ Superstar" was a concept album, and then it got made into a musical. He educated me. And so
Hmm.
after that, came back to New York, and I said, "I'm gonna make a CD with songs from my musical." but also a gospel choir, a rapper, a white person, a Latin person, a Black singer, a Hispanic singer, like, and so I made this CD called Multi-Genre Music and released it in 2017, and it was 20 songs, and it was just like hip hop, rap, gospel, jazz, and I wanted to prove that like I could do different types of music because it's what I was doing for other people, and back then you had to keep releasing music in order to be in the recording academy. The very same year in December, they would not let me renew my membership. And that was like 2019. So I had been a member since like 2008. So I called and they said, we Googled you and like, you are an actor and you're not really like a musical performer that's going out doing shows. And I crushed my dreams because I get it. I'm not famous, but in my head, Lauryn Hill won a lot of Grammys and she never went back. But sometimes I would see like a lot of white people go there and they produce for next artists and new artists. I was like, I want to be one of those people that go every year. And it's because you get to be a member and you join and you go to the meetings and you're a governor or you're something, but you keep producing. And I was just like, why can't I just be in the industry? I don't have to be the face. I just want to be in the industry. And the whole Me Too movement came in, and in 2020, and Neil Portnoy, went away. And so what they did is they said that with the new team, they started anybody that was a member for a long time, they just got rid of, and they went to like TikTok people and Instagram people and whoever had streams and followers. They were trying to get like new energy, new people, new music. Oh, yeah. But it was weird because I was also young, but I had been in for a long time. And so when they threw out the baby with the bathwater, I was thrown out. And I'm like, but I'm still young, I'm still relevant, I'm still producing. I just released something, the same year that you won't let me renew. And so for 2 years, I was not a member anymore, and I was not invited to the Grammy Awards anymore, and I couldn't go to the events anymore. And I just remember all these people that would email me, hey, vote for me, vote for me, vote for me. You get those FYCs. I was like, you may want to take me off your list. I can't, it's nothing I can do for you. And then people started getting these jobs and positions, and they would win, like Lucy and Mia, and they were like, hey, we're going to contact Nick with the New York chapter. Like, we know you. You've always been a part of us. And Eileen and Grant, and they wrote letters on my behalf. And the New York chapter got me back in the academy. Yeah. And what happened is I met Shoji at church. I'm like, I'm just going to play at church. Like, I haven't been on Broadway. I wrote 4 musicals, and they all have like, 20 songs each. And then I didn't want them to be the same. So all the musicals sound different. Sheet music is hard to make. And I've put on shows. I've won grants to put on musicals, and I've done them. But musicals are expensive. And so what happened is Shoji came into church in October of 2023. And he was saying that he'd been on Apollo, and he had done Gospel Fest, and he released, some singles with some collaborators in Japan, and he has a performing visa. And I was like, I produce music. And I was like, you could create with me, and we could keep creating music so that when they check your visa for renewal, they'll see that you have been doing music. I was like, I know how to produce music. And now that I'm in academy again, I want to keep releasing music. And I was just like, do you have anything? And so he sent me songs that were unfinished, and we picked a song. And I was like, I can write some lyrics. I can write a bridge. We can add some production. And I said, what we'll do is we'll make an acoustic version with you on the guitar, me on the piano of all of our songs. And then we'll do like a produced version that could sound like it could be on the radio. And I said, we'll do photo shoots so that when people look you up to see if you want to join Academy one day, they'll say this. And I said, instead of working on one big album, let's do singles, because, maybe we're at a different place now. We want to create a different type of song. And maybe we don't want to, this outfit that we wore for this photo shoot is out of style, and, in 2 months later. And so it became, he revived my creativity. You know, the last album that I made was in 2017, and then somebody wanted to do an EP with this DJ, and it was like an old photo, and it was working with Shoji. It was like he wanted to do some pop music, you know. So now I wasn't stuck. You know, usually when you're the Black artist, oh, is your music neo soul, is R&B? But now if you put me with a Japanese guy, what is our music going to sound like? And the fact that he was soulful, but he still loves pop music, and then he loves soul music, it was nice because now we're not stuck in a category. Mm. And so basically, he's giving me the freedom to love creating music again, and I don't feel stuck in a box because, you know, nobody knows what he's going to bring, and I have a lot of things I could bring, but we can zone it in on whatever single's out. That's what we're bringing at that time. And then when the next single's out, whatever we look like may be what we're bringing for this single. And maybe he'll play the guitar, maybe I'll play the piano, maybe we'll both sing, or maybe he'll just sing. But it also shows me that it's not always about me. Maybe I can help somebody else. Hello?
Oh.
Hey, Patrick, you went away.
Yeah, I think my camera battery just died. Hold on. 1 second.
I know you say you're not going to edit. Okay, it's back on.
Oh, there we are. All right.
Yeah, you know, and so I realized, you know, maybe I can help somebody else. And in return, you know, maybe it'll help me in it. And so when you messaged, hey, you know, I have this performance, I said, oh my God, I happen to be working with Shoji, and we can perform all the songs that we released. But then an emergency came, and you know, his aunt died, the first relative he met in America, and he had to fly away. And he was also wondering if he needed to perform because he already was booked to do Cherry Blossom on the West Coast in California. And so I said, I have this show coming up, and if you go do those performances and go to the funeral, we're not going to be able to practice for the show. And so initially it was going to be just me and Shoji performing acoustic versions of all of our songs. But what happened is he had to go to pay tribute to his deceased relative and see all the other relatives. And it was something in the performance that he had to do. He was going to be proud to be in California, just remembering the dreams and hopes that he told his aunt that died. And so I was like, you got to go do what you need to do. I have songs that I released. I have albums that I released. I have musicals that, you know, I've had Broadway people demo for me. I'll pick some songs and pick some singers. And then if you'll be back in time for the show, we'll do one of the songs, you know. And what happened is there is something he was supposed to record the produced version. And because the show was coming up on the 22nd, I said, why not have something released? And maybe this will be what we'll put in consideration, you know, for the Grammy Awards. But he was like, I may not have time to record it. And so that's how I ended up recording a version of the song. But it was nice because now people got to hear, oh, Jerome and Shoji, two different types. But when you put them together, it creates something that's different. And so was glad that he made it back to perform. He had flown in.
It was I really enjoyed the show and everyone. Like I said, I think I said it on stage. It felt like we were in my living room, like with all my musicians, because that tends to be my house sometimes. It's just a bunch of musicians hanging out, you know, playing music, having some food and some drinks and whatever, and all that. And I think especially Shoji kind of highlights what you were talking about in the question I asked. You know, what gives you the confidence, I guess, to go out and say, I'm going to make music for a living. And I think I actually have something to say that needs to get out there. And one of one of the reasons I still pursue music now, and continue to have the, I guess, confidence or hope or what have you, that my music resonates, or that I have a shot or I have the ability to do this for a living, is and you were in New York City, and you mentioned 8th Street and Broadway, right? So there used to be a Tower Records on Broadway.
Yes, Tower Records. I would go there all the time.
Yeah, me too, right? When I was younger, and there were 3 young, like maybe 19, 20-year-old guys, rappers, right? That would be out there that have backpacks on, and they'd be selling their CDs out of their backpacks, right? And they'd always harass you outside of, hey, I got this, it's new music. We're from New York City, blah, blah, blah. I think they were from Queens, where I was from. So I would talk to them sometimes. And I was like, hey, let me just ask you something. Like, you do this, you're here every time I come here. Like, how many of these things do you actually end up like selling? And they're like, oh, I don't know. We sold it something like 50 to 60,000 copies of their CD standing outside of Tower Records, just out of their backpack, $5 or whatever they could get for it. They were selling like significant amounts of music, but just by standing out there. And I think I was, at the time when I had asked him that question, I must have been like 15 or 16, and I was already playing music. I was really into the alternative thing, like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and all that sort of thing around that time. And Kurt Cobain had died, and I was starting to write songs around that time. And I was like, oh wait, these guys sold 50,000 albums out of their backpack. If they can do that, I could probably do it.
So are you saying they inspired you?
They did. They 100% did. And I think that, in addition to that, you mentioned kind of the Grammy Awards. And there's a lot of motivational people now that say, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the thing about joining the Recording Academy and all that, when you're in that room, when you're in the premiere ceremony, and for instance, were you in LA you were there?
No, I wasn't
So,
at the
yeah.
last one I went to was in 2019. I think I wanted to get a ticket for the last one. And then when I clicked, the prices went up so much from the last time I went.
But one of the
And I
things
couldn't afford it.
was what's the name of the rapper? Mike
Killer Mike.
Killer Mike got up there, and he's in his 40s now, I think. Right? Never won a Grammy. I've been listening to him since I was, I don't know, 18, 19. Like, I enjoy his music, and he's never won a Grammy before. And then he swept the whole,
Wow.
all the categories. And he said, I think he got up there and said something along those lines of, it took me 40 years to get to this point.
Wow.
And I think a lot of people that are artists, especially, have this. The reason I asked the question, they have this unending hope.
Mm.
Let's call it, right? That that it's not always the American Idol. No, you're not good enough, right? And you just then you give up on your music career, and that's it, right? The people that end up being successful are the people that have this. It's like you can't not do it.
Yeah.
You
And
don't
it sucks because I know I'm not the best in the world. I'm not the best looking. I'm not the most talented. I don't play the best. I don't sing the best. I don't act the best. I don't look the best. And I'm like, well, why? How can I compete? And when I see people like Lin-Manuel, if he went to an audition for American Idol, I don't think he
Yeah.
would make it. If Macy Gray went and auditioned for The Voice,
right.
maybe they won't turn around. Madonna has more Grammys than Patti LaBelle. Does that mean Madonna sings better than Patti LaBelle?
Yeah.
I mean, you get what I'm saying. And so I was like, it doesn't make sense. And that's when I realized I can produce music better than some of the artists that are famous now. Some people don't sing at all. And they rap, or some people play and they talk. And just I know that I'm good. You know that you're good, and we know that we witness people that made it. And you're like, if they can make it,
Yeah, well,
but
what's
how?
what's so funny about the situation. And the reason I like going to these open mics and seeing these young kids that get up for the first time and do their, play their original music. As a especially as a songwriter, I feel like I have this dichotomy in my soul and in my head of being like ultra pessimistic, but also
Okay.
super super
Optimistic.
optimistic at the same
Yeah.
time. So I have these like it's like waves I'm riding all the time of I'm
And like you said, I didn't know what type of open mics you were talking about, but listening to you say you have these young artists doing these original songs,
oh,
those are the open mics that I like. I
yeah.
like
I like
those.
I also like being the older guy there that, the open mic, the person that's running it knows me. Oh, he doesn't need to be here, but he's here. He's gonna
Yes.
get up and do this thing. But then I always if I like what someone's doing, even if sometimes I don't, but I see some potential of like, oh, they're an artist and they're not gonna get away from it. Give
And
them
you have on your paraphernalia, Patrick Van.
no, but I tend to want to encourage like I know you were nervous and I know that it felt like you didn't perform like Beyonce
Mhm.
on stage right now, but Beyonce wasn't always. She was at an open mic at some point in her
See?
past and her skills grew to be able to do what she does now. But like you were really good and you have a lot of potential. And the reason I like it is because I like seeing that person come out there because it's something that they don't really have a choice, right? It's like they have to be doing this because as a teenager especially to get up on stage and quote unquote make a fool out of yourself
Mhm.
on stage in front of a bunch of your either peers or friends or whatever, and then to go back again and again because a lot of times you bomb the first time you do it, right? And then you just keep doing it over and over again. There's something.
And people come to New York. That's why
Yeah, it's to
I
be.
realize people do that, and maybe they have a 9 to 5, and maybe they're a security guard, or maybe they're a secretary at an office, but every week that there's this open mic for original, that's how they get their rocks off.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's regular people.
and
And I'm
and it
like, I'm one of those people, like, but it's different. What I would do is, first, I was that artist that would go to the original music open mics. But that's why I was asking you when you were like, hey, I was like, do I have to sell tickets? Is there going to be a minimum for the people to come? Because I've done all these shows where you got to go there and you got to sell how many tickets you sell. That's how many songs you get to, sell 10 tickets. You do one song, sell 20 tickets, you get 2 songs. And you can only use a instrumental and it has to have background vocals on it, or you can only play with the live band and you can rehearse like 10 minutes before the show. Like, and so what I was doing was I was meeting artists there and I would say, I can do a track to your instrumental song, or, I could play for you live. And that's how I started coaching people with their original songs. It was just like, hey, this chord change is not really working, or I can do a better track for you than this. Did you make this beat at home? But it was only in the original music market because I got turned off with cover tunes.
Well, New York is like a pressure cooker for artists, right? And the people that
Mm-hmm.
end up bubbling up withstood all the nonsense that you get put through in New York, right? Of like everyone tells you, like, oh, you're like everyone ignores you. That's why celebrities go to New York because you can live in New York and everyone you can go on the train. Keanu Reeves can go on the subway and everyone will ignore him as if he's nobody. You know what I mean?
Because
And
you don't know what the people do.
that's right. So to get
And that's
them
what I did learn
attention,
about California. Like, they segregate the communities. Oh, the rich people live in this part, da da da. But in New York, like you said, a homeless person could be sleeping downstairs, but upstairs could be like the richest person on the block.
so, all right, we're coming up on the end of the time that we have, Jerome. I
Oh,
do want to have you back on because obviously you're going to release some music at some point in the future, and
yes,
hopefully, we both get to see each other again in LA. I think it's in LA again this year, right?
yes. And I want to try to save up, and thanks for being that recommendation, for Shoji, because it just shows that other people care about other artists trying to make it.
Absolutely, and we're going to have a conversation with him as well as to like,
Yeah.
what his journey has been like and why, he makes music and the like. But we're
And
gonna
people
cut.
have helped me in my life, and I was just like, I don't have any kids. And so it was just kind of like, how can I give? Like I teach kids music, but sometimes it feels good to help people to accomplish things. And when you invited us to perform at that show, of course I know musicians. I was like, I can get a bass player, I can get a drummer, I can get a guitar player, I can get, a percussionist. I was just like, but I got to pay everybody. And I said, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have songs with nice harmonies, and the voices that I pick are going to be the instruments. So my purpose was to have songs that had lots of harmonies since we didn't have a band and I was just going to be on the keys. So I purposely picked voices that could hold down certain harmony notes. I picked songs that had certain vocal parts, but I wanted to put on a good show. So I got singers that perform all over New York, like Troy. He has his own 2 nights at the Groove in the West Village. Like he has his own band, but he came to be a part of this show. And I was just like, Grace, I met her at Poetic Theater, New York Theater Workshop. I played for her there. Mario was in one of my musicals. Rhea, she plays and performs with her with wedding bands. So they love performing. And I was like, let's put on the show without the band. We have to be the voices, the instruments.
We're definitely going to do something like that again because I had a blast doing that with everyone. I mean, all the music that night was fantastic. By the end of the night, it was like, you know what? Can some other band get up and I'll just I'll just sit back and just watch because I was enjoying just the
Good.
music and everything.
And I
That
was wishing that they could all like go to California and go to see the awards, but like everybody can sing. But like you said, I realized lots of these people don't have these requirements that it takes. And I think that's why the Academy was kind of changing things, because there are so many talented people that should be able to go to these events. But like you said, they don't have all these releases, they don't have all these album credits. And it's not that they can't sing.
right. So let's do this. Final words, Jerome, for
Yes.
and I like to do this for I say younger,
I see.
but individuals that are just starting to pursue their music career or their artistic career. A one sentence piece of advice.
Oh, okay. Yes. I got this last night. I was watching the Tony Awards, and I was in some musicals with a lady named Keisha Lewis. And she started on Broadway when she was 17. And 40 years later, she won her first Tony Award last night for Alicia Keys' Hell's Kitchen. And it taught me that she didn't know that Alicia was going to be born after her and write something for her to get her first Tony. Neither did Cheryl Lee Ralph, who was in Dreamgirls, the original, know that Quinta Brunson was going to be born and write a TV show that was going to give her her first Emmy all these years later. They say don't give up. I didn't give up. There were times that I did give up. But like you said, I think, when your performance opportunity came on, it's like you got to be prepared and you got to be ready. And the people I contacted were ready. And, it was just amazing to be able to go to this venue and perform and not have to sell tickets and go plan the musicians that'll be there. And I could just perform. And I was like, wow, like this moment, this opportunity came. And because I was prepared, that I didn't give up.
Well,
I was ready.
That's what they say, right? Success is when preparation
This opportunity.
yeah. And so
You gave this opportunity, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna jump all on it. I went and and bought this outfit to wear. I went and bought these shoes. I went and bought these glasses from next door of the place, pianos. Like I was so excited. And like I feel like every once in a while, the universe will kind of do something to let you know, hey, I didn't forget about you. Like what happened is one day I was auditioning, and they were like, oh, somebody backed out of this video shoot for Rock Band 3. And we need somebody to be on the cover of the video game and then the TV commercials. And flash forward, now I was in Japan and I saw myself on this video game for Rock Band 3. And I'm like, that's me in Japan, like on the posters, on the video game. And so I feel like every once in a while, the universe will kind of do something to say, hey, like,
Keep going.
anybody can't just walk into a music store or a video game store in another country and say, oh, that's me on the cover of the video game. Every once in a while, the universe will just do something to say, hey, like, I didn't forget about you. So all I can say is maybe don't give up. It's hard to say when I give up sometimes.
Jerome,
But
I think that's the perfect way to end the episode. Don't give up. Let's do this. We're gonna cut it here. Let's where can people again just what's your website? How about that one more time?
I use Instagram now. I don't have a website yet.
So Instagram, where can people
Instagram, Facebook, Jerome Brooks Music Fans, Instagram, Jerome Brooks Jr. Actor, IMDb, I'm Jerome Brooks Jr. And eventually I'll have a website. I'm still learning how to navigate this business. I had my own website when I first released music, but back in the day, it was like you said, those people that would sell CDs, I had CDs. So we would exchange CDs. I was like, oh, hey, you're selling a CD, I'm selling a CD. And so we'd exchange. And now nobody has a CD player. So we now have all these CDs.
Yeah, I learned that recently. Like I stopped offering CDs at my shows and stuff because I'm like, no, they're not even selling cars anymore with CD players in them.
They're not even in a computer. But yes, you can find me, like you say, online. I'm on YouTube. Even just if you put in my name, Jerome Brooks Jr., you'll get to hear all the music I release. And that's a good thing that Spotify and the online digital distributors are connecting to my YouTube page. So you're able to hear all the music I release and see what shows are coming up.
And then stay tuned here because Jerome will be on again. And Shoji, at some point, I think we're booked through. I think we got tell Shoji July 15th, we got an opening for a recording.
July 15th, they have an opening. Well, thanks for inviting me, Patrick. I don't even really remember how you found me exactly. I just got a message and I realized we were Facebook friends for a while, but the opportunity that you gave really helped me to give other people the opportunity to perform. It got me back out there and it made me feel good about music again.
It's such a great night of music, and we're going to do that again. Hopefully, all of us have nominations in February, and we're all going to be out in LA. I'm going to try and put out a show there. I don't know if it's going to happen yet or not, but I'd love to have you out there. And thank you for being on the show, Jerome.
Yes, thank you so much.
I love talking to you, and I feel like we're connected in some way. I feel like we've got similar feelings about the world and music and what have you. And I love your endless optimism about where everything's heading. So keep that up and keep making music, Jerome. Because
and you too, and keep being a good business guy. And thanks for the show and the hors d'oeuvres. I had a cousin came to the show and she said it was the best thing ever.
I never eat before.
Allie, I say hi. You never eat there?
Not before I perform. I don't eat before I perform. So by the time I got off stage, everything was being cleared off. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get a tortilla chip or something. And
I see.
I heard the food was very delicious there.
Oh my God, it was so good.
Thank you, Jerome, for being on the show. I really appreciate it. Any last things you want to tell the audience here?
Thank you. I hope you all listen to the music, and my music is all different. It's not always the same, and I hope to have different people of from different places and locations to sing songs I write in different genres of music. And
keep an eye out for Jerome here.
An eye out.
You'll see him soon in this place and that place. All right, Jerome, thank you for being on the show. Everyone, thank you for listening, for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comments are the best. When you comment, it helps the algorithms a lot, signifies like interaction with it. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to all our patrons. And we'll see you on the next episode, like Dre says.
Yes.
Later, guys.